As the world sees an environmental challenge like never before, the transportation industry is also taking steps to ensure that it decarbonizes its fleet and achieves the end target of net carbon neutrality. Towards that goal, Tata Motors has set itself targets of 2045 for its commercial vehicle division and 2040 for its passenger vehicle division to achieve that goal. To talk more about this strategy, about how to reach that goal for Tata Motors, we have with us Girish Wagh, Executive Director of Tata Motors. Girish, thanks for talking to ET Auto.
Pleasure.
This whole, sustainability is becoming a cornerstone for strategies, for strategies of every organization today. In your case, you have set very clear-cut targets: 2045 for commercial vehicles, 2040 for passenger vehicles. For the commercial vehicle business, it becomes a relatively more challenging task, isn't it?
Yes. So, Sumantro, I think let me set the context. Although you have started very well setting the context partially, but yes, I think logistics and transportation sector contributes to around 18% of global greenhouse gas emissions. As per one of the reports. So that's quite a bit, and I think therefore we have to play a major role in this decarbonization of global operations. Now, as a part of that, our country has decided to be net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2070. In alignment with that, I think we have decided in commercial vehicles that we will be net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2045. Right now, to make this happen, it will mean an imperative for both our product portfolio as well as our operations. So we've also decided that our operations will move towards 100% renewable energy operation by the end of this decade. Now, coming to the product portfolio, uh, to address this climate change challenge, I think at our country level, the energy basket may be balanced between different fuels, and then the percentages will keep on varying as we move ahead. So today, if the conventional fuel percentage is higher, it's going to go down drastically. Now, the basket therefore will include conventional fuels like diesel, petrol. It will include natural gas. Then after that, it will include the blended fuels like flex fuel and biofuel. And then finally, zero emission, that is battery electric as well as hydrogen. Within hydrogen, again, there are two technologies, that is fuel cell electric and internal combustion engine.
So I was coming to that in terms
So
of the
so I think therefore for the OEM as an auto OEM, the imperative is therefore to work on all these technologies. And therefore the 14 exhibits that we have showcased here, you will see a complete spread addressing the entire range of technologies from conventional fuels to hydrogen ICE. It addresses our entire range from ACE to 55-ton cargo vehicle, and it also addresses goods carrying to passenger carrying. So you will also see buses in an electric version.
I would like to come to the technology basket, technology mix. The changing energy mix is also influencing the industry's technology mix, powertrain technology primarily. And hydrogen has been a discussion topic in the industry for long, but now it seems like it's coming of age. But now, what is also another dimension to that discussion is the H2 ICE, not hydrogen in a conventional ICE engine. So, is that a relatively more practical solution and therefore a lower hanging fruit compared to the fuel cell hydrogen technology? And by when do you see kind of a rollout at the marketplace?
So I must say that I think as we get more and more knowledge of each of these technologies, we are learning more every day. And I do agree that I think since we met last, hydrogen ICE is clearly emerging as one of the uh, optimistic or possible technologies which can help us decarbonization. Now, in commercial vehicles, heavy duty long haul applications cannot be addressed through battery electric as it appears today, right? And therefore, you need another zero emission fuel option. Within that, hydrogen is making sense. Within hydrogen, there are two technologies, that is fuel cell electric and hydrogen ice. Now, fuel cell electric actually needs very high level of purity in the hydrogen which is used, whereas hydrogen ice can tolerate lesser purity of hydrogen to some extent, and therefore that is one reason it is becoming promising. But the second thing which we can also look at is that hydrogen ice actually allows using the current IP and infrastructure which has been put in place for a number of years for the IC engine. So hydrogen ice can probably also be a just transition as we move ahead, because it can also keep that entire value chain into the business for longer.
So therefore, now with OEMs like Tata Motors being ready with the technology, so is the only hurdle on the adoption is the availability of the fuel. So that is the only factor left. Missing kind of block in the whole picture.
See, I think even the technology at our end needs to mature. I think we have demonstrated the concepts here. In the real world application, yes, certainly we'll have to mature the technology. As we also saw on AS Electric, right? As we did the pilots and trials with the e-commerce companies over 7 months, there were very good learnings which have been incorporated in that. Similarly, I think on these vehicles there will be some nuances when we put them to use. So yes, we will work on that. Similarly, as you rightly put, I think production of green hydrogen, then transmission, distribution, and making it available at retail, both are going to be very important requirements. And the government already has this hydrogen mission which has been rolled out, and that makes us optimistic that I'm sure work will also happen on therefore generation, transmission, and distribution of hydrogen.
The other part, the BEV part, you started delivering the ACE EV, and I believe roughly about 40,000 is the cumulative orders that you have to serve. Like going forward, let's say if you look at by the end of this decade, what percentage of your CV portfolio do you think could come from the EVs? And I'm sure you'll have more kind of nameplates or no more models electrified by that time. So what kind of segments would you be?
So see, it appears that within the segments that we play in, and we play in all the segments, the small commercial vehicles, especially for intracity logistics and buses, I think these two segments will clearly lead the way in terms of penetration of zero emission vehicles. I think intermediate, medium and heavy commercial vehicles will probably lag, or they will follow the smaller commercial vehicles. So we are quite optimistic and in fact bullish that the penetration in smaller vehicles and even in buses will happen much faster, because there are a lot of things which are falling in place, whether it is the government incentives in terms of FAME phase 1, FAME phase 2, or the production link incentives. Now a lot of corporates like us also have their net zero goals. For their net zero goals, take the case of e-commerce companies. They need to decarbonize their entire distribution logistics, for which they will therefore need these vehicles. So I think that is also therefore pushing the smaller vehicles towards zero emission. So I think a lot of things seem to be falling in place, and therefore this penetration of electric vehicles most likely will be higher than what we thought, as has happened in the passenger vehicles also.
Staying with this topic of the energy mix in the commercial vehicle industry, by the end of this decade, at the marketplace I'm talking about, what is the kind of composition you expect of the in terms of the energy mix, in terms of technology mix?
So see, I think of course this will be dependent on the relative pricing between natural gas and diesel, right? But as the prices, if I may say, normalize, and natural gas distribution and retail infrastructure also improves as it has been planned, one would not be surprised to see almost equal penetration of both these, either towards the end of this decade or towards the middle of that next decade. And as I said, meanwhile we will also see some penetration happening from the electric or the zero emission vehicles also. So I think we'll see a very healthy basket towards the end of this decade.
And again, talking about carbon neutrality, as you rightly said, the supply chain, the overall value chain, you have to look at it at the overall perspective. So, have you also kind of conveyed to your the supply chain in terms of meeting certain norms to be able to qualify, let's say, as a vendor or a supplier? Because some OEMs have already started doing that.
So I think it is a very good question, Sumantro. And at Tata Motors, what we've done is we've actually created a collaboration platform with all the vendors. The platform is actually called as Aikyam. Yeah, Aikyam in Sanskrit actually means unity, right? So we have created this platform, and in our annual supplier conference, we've already communicated our intent on this, and how we are also ready to support those or help those who want to do this. Now, I think the vendors have also their own targets, for example, or they are also getting a message. And I think one thing is very clear, that those who lead this transition will actually have better business proposition. And so this, apart from our IKEM platform and supporting the vendors to move this on this transition journey, I think together we can take this forward.
And the M&HCV industry is on a again back on a good growth clip. So, what is your outlook for this year, and maybe do you see this the upswing continuing for the next year or two before the another trough comes?
So see, I mean, we have seen in the past that generally after a decline in the industry, we do get 3 to 5 year good period. Now the industry started doing well from October 21. So we are already kind of 15 months since the growth has started. And I think we continue to grow. In fact, this year the growth rates have been quite healthy because the base was pretty low. So we are therefore having the benefit of that. Even in quarter four, I think the growth will continue, but the growth rate has tapered, year over year. As we stand here today, the growth for next year will be a balance between the headwinds and tailwinds. And what could be the headwinds is interest rate and the fuel prices. It appears that the fuel prices have stabilized now. Interest rates also may be peaking out, and the tailwinds are all the work which is happening from the government side on infrastructure. I think that continues at a good pace, as also the general consumption, and therefore we believe that even next year we will see the growth in demand. But of course, the rates will drop down significantly due to the base effect.
Okay. You are saying lesser growth, but growth nonetheless.
Yes.
I mean, lesser rate of growth, but growth nonetheless. Yeah.
Yes, that's
On that
right.
note, Girish, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sumantro.